Afternoon, gang. I put a couple of videos on TikTok earlier, but on TikTok you have to be very careful how you word things and what you say because the censorship is off the scale. Here on X and also across on Instagram, you can be a little bit more open about what you want to say. So do you know who Iqbal Muhammad is? Do you know who Ayub Khan is? Do you know who Loftur Rahman is? These are all politicians in this country. Iqbal Muhammad and Ayub Khan are MPs in Parliament sitting in Westminster, and Loftur Rahman is the Mayor of Tower Hamlets Council in London. What do they have in common? Well, they are all Muslims, all Islamic, and were all elected specifically on the basis of being Islamic. They were elected by a demographic and by a group specifically because of their religion and because of their background. They may try and deny that, but it's absolutely clear. And in particular, the two men in Parliament, who are Iqbal Muhammad and Ayub Khan, if you look at their speaking record and voting record since they've been in Parliament, pretty much every issue that they raise, everything they speak about in some way, shape or form is connected to Islamic causes, in some cases Pakistan, airports in Pakistan, Palestine, Gaza, whatever it might be. That seems to be the only thing they're interested in talking about, the only thing they're interested in promoting. And yet, in theory, they are in Parliament and they are in Westminster to represent the issues and problems and causes of their entire community, of their entire constituency that they were voted to elect. But that just doesn't seem to be the case. In Loftur Rahman's case, he heads up a political party that is pretty much entirely Islamic. So I think in Tower Hamlets Council, these numbers are there or thereabouts, I might be one or two out, but in Tower Hamlets Council, there's about 46 members. I believe that 41 or 42 of them are Asian, and of those 41 or 42, over 90% are Muslim. They have one party which Loftur Rahman heads up, and of that party, which has 24 members, 22 of them are all from the Bangladeshi Muslim community. And they openly state in their party brochure, manifesto, website that they are there to represent Islamic interests. Again, not to represent all of the people of Tower Hamlets, just Islamic interests. Dan Wootton, the ex-newspaper and Sky journalist who's now set up his own website and his own show, did a really interesting 30-odd minute video which he posted, I think, today on X and on his own site, talking about the rise of Islam, Islamic politics, and the fact that nobody seems willing to talk about it, willing to name it, and willing to, I suppose, declaim what a problem it is becoming in this country. It's a little bit like the Trojan horse, I said in one of my other videos. We've allowed it inside our gates, inside our cities, inside our country. And now that it's here, it's growing and growing and growing and festering like an open wound, an open sore. I see personally, this is my own personal view, I'm not anti-Muslim on an individual basis. I am, much like Stephen Lennon, Tommy Robinson, anti-Islam, the ideology and the growth of that in Britain. I think it's a problem. I think it's going to continue to be a problem. I think it's going to continue to grow as a problem. The religion, the ideology, whatever you want to call it, is based on expansionism, is based on taking over. It always has been. Go back to its very beginnings in the 7th century, 600 and whatever it was when it first started. And it's always grown through domination, through conquest, through expansionism. And its stated aim is to do that wherever it lands. It's only 6% of the population in the UK at this current moment in time. But look at the influence that it has, look at the amount of councils, look at the amount of mayors, look at the amount of politicians it's electing. And why is that happening? Because they absolutely 100% stick together and don't vote on the issues. They vote on their demographic, their group, their religion. And to some extent, you have to admire that. But it doesn't necessarily mean we have to bend the knee to it or allow it. So I'm aware that this video could cause trouble, could get me in trouble, and could cause me to be banned. I understand that. I'm trying to be as fair as I can. I'm absolutely not instigating any form of violence whatsoever. I'm looking for political solutions. I'm looking for legal solutions. And I'm just looking for people to recognise that this is, in my view at least, the single biggest issue facing this country going forward, the expansion of Islamism. And I use that phrase very specifically because Islamism and Islam are slightly different. Islam is just the religion. And there are millions of Muslims, both in this country and all over the world, that are absolutely perfectly good people, lovely people, great to have as your neighbours, your work colleagues, your friends, who just follow a religion, the same as other people follow Christianity or Judaism or Sikhism or Hinduism or Buddhism or whatever it might be. That isn't the problem. Islamism is the expansionist grouping within that. It's the group that wants to take over, that wants to push it into every corner of our society, that wants to expand, wants to grow, wants to exert more and more influence, and wants to push back against anything that opposes that. And that is growing. At the moment, it's a small minority, but it's a significant minority, and it's a growing minority, and we can see it absolutely everywhere in our society. So what do we do about it? I don't know. The first thing we can do about it is do what I'm doing, which is talk about it. The first thing we can do is to find brave public personalities like Dan Wootton who are prepared to call it out for what it is and speak out against it. The second thing we can do is to oppose it politically at the ballot box, to coordinate, to push back, to argue against, to use logic, to use reason, to use just the power of common sense to point out where these things are wrong. But it is an issue. It really is an issue, and it's growing every day. And it doesn't help that from an immigration point of view, significant chunks of the people that have come into the country, both legally and also very much so illegally, over the last 15 years, are from that grouping. Large proportions of them, particularly the illegal ones. We need to stop the illegal ones. Full stop, end of story. They can never be allowed to vote, ever, because that will cause even more problems. So politically, you need to ally with parties that are willing to call this out, parties that are willing to speak the truth, parties that are willing to name names, and parties that are willing to take very strong measures against what's happening. Again, I emphasise, this needs to be peaceful, it needs to be legal. I'm absolutely not advocating anything violent whatsoever. I'm just advocating digging your heels in and saying no. A bit like with digital ID, where you must resist, you must not comply, and you must say no. The expansion of Islamism is exactly the same. You must resist, you must not comply, you must just say no.